March 2018, the BBC's 7 Worlds, 1 Planet team arrive in northern Queensland. Their aim? To film one of the world's largest birds, the cassowary.
We are in the Daintree rainforest in North Queensland, and it's one of the oldest patches of rainforest in the world.
Growing to a height of 1.5 meters and equipped with enormous dinosaur-like claws, cassowaries have been described as the planet's most dangerous birds. But these feathered giants are shy and prefer to stay hidden in dense tropical rainforest. There are only around 2,000 left in Australia. To locate them, the team set up a series of camera traps. But instead of cassowaries, they discover another animal that could threaten the future of the entire forest.
There's like 8 pigs in that. When was that?
We put out loads of camera traps around the place, and most of the footage we got back were of feral pigs.
Pigs are not meant to be in this rainforest. They were brought to Australia as farm animals by European settlers in the 1700s. They soon escaped, and now there are around 24 million living feral across the continent.
This is pig damage. We see it all over the place. They're trying to find some food, but in doing so, they disrupt all the topsoil so that if it rains heavily, which it does all the time, all the soil washes away and then the trees can't stand up. So they're basically causing havoc. They also eat all the food and can grow massive, so they can really be a threat to our cassowary, especially the chick.
Pigs are omnivores. As well as stripping the forest of the fruit the cassowaries depend on, they can eat their eggs and even their chicks. With such a small population, this new threat could see the cassowary disappear forever from Australia, which would be disastrous for this ancient rainforest.
The cassowaries are crucial for the Daintree rainforest to survive. They're a keystone species, and this fruit in particular relies on the cassowary to germinate. It goes through cassowary's gut, and once it's done that, it is obviously pooed out, and it is able to grow in its own little pile of cassowary fertilizer.
It's estimated that over 100 plant species here depend almost entirely on the cassowary as their method of seed dispersal.
They can eat fruits that are, this big. They walk kilometres in a day, so they take them really far away, and they have really gentle digestive system.
So if the cassowaries are at risk, all the other plants and animals that rely on them are also in danger. Invasive species are now the #1 threat to Australia's native wildlife. They have already contributed to the extinction of more than 100 indigenous species of flora and fauna. It's hard to predict just how many feral pigs there are in the Daintree, but the camera traps suggest their numbers are increasing. At this moment, little is being done to remove or prevent the spread of pigs. So, unless action is taken soon, Australia may lose another of its iconic wildlife species.
Pacific coastal fish live and breed in the most fragile of habitats, coral reefs. But many reefs have been trampled on, smashed by boats, and even dynamited in the quest for fish. And damaged reefs support fewer fish. This could be why the fishermen are catching less. In Fiji, biologists are working with fishermen to bring the fish back by replanting the reefs. This is a coral nursery. But with wild corals already struggling, where have these coral seedlings come from? The coral gardeners monitor the reef, looking for corals that need a helping hand. Despite all this real estate, many corals end up clustered together. Crowded out, they will eventually die. So the gardeners uproot them, creating more space for some and giving the uprooted ones a fresh start. Each coral head is broken down into a dozen or more fingers, and each of these is tied onto a concrete disc. As every gardener knows, vigorous growth requires sunlight, plenty of nutrients, and the right temperature. So the coral gardeners choose just the spot. Within 6 months, the corals are branching out. They're spaced out onto adjacent tables, and a year or two after planting, they're ready for harvesting. The coral heads are broken down once more. In the space of 2 years, a single finger of coral has multiplied into 50 or more. Some of these will be replanted on fresh discs, while others will be returned to the reef. If replicated, coral gardening could help restore reefs throughout the Pacific. But its biggest success may be in sowing the seeds of conservation in the local fishermen. Within days, these cuttings will have stuck themselves to the reef, while reefs that were replanted a year ago are already starting to bloom. In a few more years, this area should be awash with fish. So there's hope for coastal fisheries on which local people depend.
Kenya, in Africa. The last 2 northern white rhinos, poised on the brink of extinction. But can science save them? For the making of his BBC 7 Worlds, 1 Planet series, naturalist David Attenborough travelled to the Olpejeta Conservancy to film with the last 2 northern white rhinos. Once widespread, Najin and Fatu are now all that is left of this subspecies, which has been brutally hunted by poachers for many decades. Nearby is a memorial. Here, gravestones mark the deaths of some of the many rhinos killed by poachers since 2004.
That's a particularly sad one. Max. I think I may have met him.
When David made his first wildlife documentary in the 1950s, there were over 2,000 northern white rhinos in Africa.
Sudan, the last male northern white rhino.
Now only Najin and Fatu survive, and to keep them safe from poachers, they must live out their days under constant armed guard.
Unfortunately, these rhinos are under the threat of being poached for their horns, which has a market in the Middle East. A kilo can go with around $6,500 US.
With no male survivors and both females unable to carry a pregnancy, many people consider the northern white rhino to already be extinct.
You watch them every day looking at extinction with just, nothing much they can do than just accept the fate that you've allowed them to be in.
But a group of scientists believe this need not be the final chapter in the northern white rhino's story.
Right now we are here at Olpecheta Conservancy. Tomorrow is one of a very important phase of a project which is going on for more than 5 years.
Using in vitro fertilization techniques, the scientists will take eggs from the last 2 females and attempt to fertilize them with frozen sperm, collected from 2 northern white rhino males before their deaths. If embryos are successfully created, they could be transferred to a surrogate mother of a different subspecies, allowing a population of northern white rhinos to be created, even if the last 2 females were no longer alive.
The power of IVF is the multiplication factor. If we have embryos, we can multiply. We can have 10, 20, maybe 30 embryos a year, and then place them in southern white rhinos and then create a new northern white rhino population in a very, very short time.
After years of planning, the procedure tomorrow will determine the future of this subspecies.
We are confident that we will change the world tomorrow.
It's the day of the procedure. First, the females are separated. The rhinos are then tranquilized.
This is very good. And 100 milligrams.
The team will have to work fast before the anesthetic wears off. This procedure has never been done before. New technology and ultrasound must be used to locate the ovaries. After 4 long years of preparation, the eggs have finally been collected. But this is just the beginning. They must airlift them from Kenya to the laboratory in Italy, where they will be fertilized with the frozen sperm. This procedure must happen within hours, so the journey across continents needs to go without errors. One month later, there is good news. The team was able to harvest 10 eggs, leading to the development of 2 northern white rhino embryos. Preparations for the right surrogate mothers to carry these embryos are now underway. Only time will tell, but there may yet be a future for the northern white rhino.
I think the young generation is much more aware of what biodiversity actually means. We as scientists think we can help to rewind some of these mistakes and give the responsibility to the young generation.
Back in the nursery, Min Min's baby is fighting fit. She's now ready to go back to mum. Not as straightforward as it sounds. Min Min may not have had time to bond with her baby, and it will be covered in different smells. So there's a risk she might have nothing to do with her daughter. The team hold the baby in front of Min Min, expecting her to come forward. But she shows little interest. This is not a good sign. After all that she has gone through, there is a real possibility that Min Min will now reject her baby. The keepers move the baby closer. The youngster cries out desperately for mum to pick her up. But she still ignores the helpless baby. The keepers step in. Making Min Min more comfortable, they try again. Then something clicks. To everyone's relief, Min Min's maternal instincts finally kick in, and she gently accepts the baby. Things are at last looking up for the reunited family.
He needs to sedate the elephant so that the snare can be safely removed.
Guys, we are ready. We go help the elephant.
This is good. I'm happy now the vet's here.
Fred works alongside a spotter plane to locate the injured bull. He wants to dart it quickly to stop it from suffering.
Okay, sawa. Let's go. So Fred's managed to fire the dart and the elephant's taken off through the trees, so we're just going to try and locate it. Chopper's on the ground. Oh my goodness. Jeez. It's really shocking.
Kuna box ya black ingine iko huko na nafunguliwa pia hivi.
On his side, the bull's breathing is laboured. We have to move fast to remove the snare.
Oh, there we go.
The poachers have simply used winch cable from a truck. A snare like this is cheap to make. It could have caught any of Weaver's family.
The reason that this animal has endured this unimaginable pain is for this. Its tusks. It defies belief how cruel people can be to animals and how senseless this whole thing is, that you can cause so much suffering, so much pain for an ornament, simply for an ornament. This poor animal.
He's treated with a special clay that'll help heal the wound.
What do you think, Fred? You think it'll survive?
You can see the guy's body condition is good. He was walking, and also it was getting to another bad level, but it's still okay. It will survive. You see, the bone is not involved.
Okay.
The bone is intact.
Okay.
So when the bone is intact, the soft tissue can easily recover. Yeah.
Finally, the wound is treated with an antibiotic spray. All that remains is to wake him up.
Whoa. Oh my word. Hey, fella. Okay, move back. Not taking any chances.